Hello everyone, it's Sophia here, and I have a story to tell you. A little slice of my day that I thought you might enjoy. It's about one of those small moments that somehow sticks with you, you know? It all started so ordinary. I was walking, lost in thought, probably daydreaming about something completely silly, and completely oblivious to the gathering clouds above. And then, you will not believe what happened next, it started raining. And I, of course, had no umbrella. Now, normally, this would be the part where I'd start to fret, but honestly, it felt different this time. The rain started as a soft drizzle, almost a whisper against the leaves of the trees lining the street. It was surprisingly soothing. The cool drops kissed my face and the world around me seemed to soften, the sounds muted, the air fresh and clean. I felt a sense of calm wash over me, a quiet contentment. It was a truly lovely moment, and I wanted to share it with you. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. Remember, new videos are released daily, focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, you are never going to believe this lemon rice saga. I mean, lemon rice. How complicated can it be, right? Famous last words. Seriously, grab a cuppa, because this is a story and a half. It all started with this craving. You know those cravings, the ones that burrow deep down and won't let go? I'm talking a deep, visceral yearning for the tangy zing, the fluffy grains, the comforting warmth of my grandma's lemon rice. Now, my grandma, bless her soul, she was a magician in the kitchen. Everything she touched turned into gold, culinary gold. And her lemon rice? Legendary. I hadn't made it in ages. Life, you know, it gets in the way. But this particular Saturday morning, the sun was streaming in, the birds were chirping. Okay, maybe the birds were just pigeons arguing on my fire escape, but still, it felt idyllic, and that lemon rice craving hit me like a ton of bricks. So, I pull out her recipe card. This ancient, stained, slightly torn piece of cardstock. It's more than a recipe, it's a family heirloom. I can practically smell her sandalwood perfume and hear her gentle chuckle just holding it. The recipe is written in her elegant, looping cursive, a mix of English and Tamil. Kaima's special lemon rice, it proclaims. Kaima. That's what we called her. Now, her recipe, it's minimalist, let's say. Like, a pinch of this, a handful of that, no measurements. You know the type? The kind that relies entirely on instinct and years of inherited kitchen wisdom. And, of course, I, in my infinite wisdom, thought, PSH, I got this. It's just lemon rice. First step. Rice. Easy peasy. I use good old basmati, the queen of rice, in my opinion. I rinse it, get it cooking. Perfect. So far, so good. I'm feeling like a culinary goddess, channeling my inner Kaima. Then comes the tempering. This is where the magic happens, right? You heat the oil. I use sunflower, Kaima always used coconut, and then you add the mustard seeds. Now, these little guys, they're like tiny, explosive flavor bombs. And when they hit that hot oil, pop, 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 it's like a tiny celebratory firework display in your pan. It's supposed to be, anyway. My mustard seeds? They just sat there, menacingly, like little, black, unpopped kernels of disappointment. The oil was hot, I swear. I added a few more, thinking maybe the first batch were duds. Nope, still just sitting there, judging me. I poked them with a spoon. Nothing. I swirled the oil. Nada. I even whispered encouraging words to them, like they were tiny, stubborn children refusing to take a nap. Still nothing. Finally, in a moment of desperation, I turned up the heat. Bad idea. Really bad idea. Suddenly, pop 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 pop. Like a volcanic eruption of mustard seeds. They were everywhere, on the stovetop, on the counter, stuck to the ceiling fan. I kid you not, it was a mustard seed massacre. My kitchen looked like a crime scene. A tiny, spicy crime scene. So, there I am, covered in tiny black specks, feeling slightly defeated, but the rice is cooked, right? So I forge ahead. I add the tempering, minus the rogue mustard seeds, to the rice. Squeeze in the juice of 2 plump, juicy lemons. Toss in some chopped cilantro, and disaster strikes again. It's sour. Like, puckeringly, eye-wateringly sour. I used 2 lemons, just like Kaima's recipe indicated. 2 lemons, it said, so innocently. But, Kaima's 2 lemons were probably these tiny, sweet little limes compared to the giant, mutant lemons they sell at my supermarket these days. So now, my perfectly cooked rice is swimming in a sea of lemon juice. It's officially inedible. My culinary goddess status has plummeted. I'm feeling more like a kitchen gremlin. I slump onto a kitchen chair, surrounded by rogue mustard seeds and the pungent aroma of lemon overload, and just stare at the pot of rice. Then, I laugh. I mean, what else can you do? It's just lemon rice, right? It's not the end of the world. And, honestly, the whole thing was so ridiculously absurd, I couldn't help but find it funny. But, that craving, it was still there. So, I did what any self-respecting, lemon rice-loving individual would do. I called my mom. Mom, I said, I need help. And then, I proceeded to recount the entire saga. The mustard seed explosion, the lemon juice flood, the whole shebang. She, of course, found it hilarious. Mothers, right? But, bless her, she patiently walked me through the whole process again. Actual measurements this time. 1 tablespoon of oil, half a teaspoon of mustard seeds, the juice of half a lemon. You know, the basics. The things Kaima's recipe assumed I knew through osmosis. And guess what? The second attempt? Perfection. Fluffy, fragrant, perfectly tangy, just like Kaima's. It wasn't exactly the same, of course. Nothing ever is, but it was close. Close enough to satisfy that craving. Close enough to bring back a flood of warm memories of Kaima in her kitchen, her hands deftly creating culinary magic. So, yeah, it was a journey. A slightly chaotic, mustard seed splattered, lemon-soaked journey. But you know what? It was worth it. It reminded me that sometimes, even the simplest things can be an adventure. And that sometimes, you just need to call your mom. Or, you know, a friend who'll listen to you ramble on about your lemon rice escapades for 20 minutes. Thanks for that, by the way. Now, who wants some lemon rice? Okay, so, you know how sometimes you just need to escape? Like, really escape. Not just a quick coffee break escape, but a proper, soul-nourishing escape? Well, that's exactly how I felt a few months ago. Work had been intense. Life felt like a treadmill set to slightly too fast, and I just craved something different. And then it hit me. The Colosseum. I'd always dreamt of seeing it, ever since I was a kid glued to history documentaries. It felt like a whisper from my inner historian, you know? So, I booked a flight to Rome, packed my comfiest walking shoes, essential, and off I went. Landing in Rome was electric. The air was buzzing with a different energy, a palpable sense of history. It smelled like sunshine, espresso, and ancient stones. I'm telling you, it's a real thing. I checked into this cute little hotel tucked away in a cobbled side street, all blooming flower boxes and the friendliest owner you could imagine. She had this fantastically infectious laugh, and just hearing it made me feel instantly lighter. The next morning, I woke up early. Like, ridiculously early. The jet lag was real, but I also couldn't contain my excitement. I practically skipped to the Colosseum. The metro ride was an adventure in itself, crammed with locals chattering in rapid-fire Italian, and tourists clutching guidebooks like lifelines. I even managed to get on the wrong train at one point. Can you believe it? I ended up in some residential neighborhood, completely bewildered, but a kind old lady with bright red lipstick pointed me in the right direction. It was a delightful detour, actually. And then, there it was. Emerging from behind a cluster of buildings, majestic and imposing, the Colosseum. I just stopped, right there in the middle of the sidewalk. All the pictures, all the documentaries, nothing could have prepared me for the sheer scale of it. It felt overwhelming, like stepping back in time. You know those moments when you feel a lump forming in your throat, not from sadness, but from the weight of something profound? That's what it was like. The sunlight was golden, highlighting the honey-colored stone, and shadows danced across the arches. I could almost hear the roar of the crowds, the clash of gladiators, the cries of the emperors. It was all there, etched into the very stones. I took a deep breath, the air thick with history and dust, and joined the queue. Inside, wow. Just wow. Walking through those crumbling arches, touching the worn stone, it felt like walking through a dream. I could almost feel the ghosts of the past brushing against me. I wandered through the different levels, imagining the gladiators preparing for battle, the roar of the lions, the tense anticipation of the spectators. You know what surprised me the most? The sheer size of it. I knew it was big, but actually being there, surrounded by that immense structure, it was breathtaking. I spent hours just wandering, soaking it all in. I even eavesdropped on some tour guides, picking up fascinating snippets of information. Did you know that the Colosseum could hold up to 80,000 spectators? Can you imagine? 80,000 people. It's mind-boggling. I climbed to the upper levels, and the view from there was incredible. I could see all of Rome spread out before me, a tapestry of terracotta rooftops, church domes, and ancient ruins. It felt like I was standing at the heart of the world. There were so many little moments, too. A group of school children giggling and pointing, a couple sharing a stolen kiss under an archway, a lone artist sketching furiously in his notebook. It was all so human. A reminder that life, in all its forms, has always existed within these ancient walls. I sat on a broken section of wall for a long time, just absorbing it all. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I felt peaceful, content, like I'd connected with something bigger than myself. Later, I wandered through the Forum, the remnants of the Roman Empire scattered across the landscape. Columns reaching for the sky, broken statues, crumbling temples. It felt surreal, walking through the ruins of a civilization that had once ruled the world. I even picked up a tiny piece of marble, a little souvenir of my journey through time. I know, probably not aloud, but it felt like a tangible connection to the past. That evening, I found this charming little trattoria tucked away down a side street. The air was filled with the aroma of garlic and tomato sauce, and laughter spilled out from the open doorway. I sat at a table outside, under a string of twinkling fairy lights, and ordered the most delicious pasta I've ever tasted. Simple, but perfect. I sat there, sipping my wine, listening to the murmur of conversations, and feeling utterly content. You know, it's funny. I went to Rome to see the Colosseum, to connect with history. But what I found was so much more. I found a sense of peace, a renewed appreciation for the beauty of the world, and a reminder that even amidst the chaos of modern life, there's still magic to be found. It's in the ancient stones, in the laughter of strangers, in the simple pleasure of a bowl of pasta under the Roman sky. The trip wasn't perfect. I got lost. I probably looked like a bewildered tourist more times than I can count, and I definitely overpacked. Who needs 5 pairs of shoes for a city break? But those imperfections are part of what made it so special. They're the stories I'll tell, the memories I'll cherish. The Colosseum wasn't just a historical monument, it was a portal. A portal to the past, yes, but also a portal to a deeper understanding of myself, of the world, and the enduring power of human connection. And honestly, sometimes, that's exactly the kind of escape we all need, right? Just a moment to step out of our everyday lives and into something extraordinary. Something that reminds us of the vastness of time, the beauty of history, and the simple joy of being alive. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But think of it this way. Every new word you learn is a step closer to fluency. It's like collecting these little building blocks, and with each one, you're constructing this amazing bridge to connect with a whole new world. It's a journey, for sure, but it's also incredibly rewarding, and before you know it, you'll be surprised at how far you've come. Honestly, it feels like magic when you start to understand and be understood. And you know what? There's this simple trick you can try to boost your speaking confidence. Just start answering random questions aloud. Imagine you're cooking dinner, and you ask yourself, what am I making tonight? Then, answer it in English, describing the dish. Or while you're walking, ask yourself, where am I going, and explain your destination. It sounds silly, but it gets you comfortable with forming sentences spontaneously. It's such a fun and easy way to practice anytime, anywhere. Talking about your hobbies, I bet you have so many interesting things you love to do. Do you also find yourself understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? I know that feeling. Think about how passionately you can talk about your hobbies in your native language. Now, try channeling that same energy in English. Even if it's just a few sentences at first, describing what you love doing, it makes a huge difference. You'll be surprised at how much you already know. Speaking of learning experiences, you will not believe what happened to me the other day. I tried to order coffee in English, and completely mixed up two words. It was a bit embarrassing at the time, but now, it's a funny story. What's the funniest mistake you've made in English? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. It's always good to share a laugh and learn from each other's experiences. Let's have some fun with this. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you just need a change? Like, a deep, soul-stirring, shake things up kind of change? Well, for me, that usually manifests as a sudden, overwhelming urge to do something drastic to my hair. This story is about one of those times. Grab a cuppa, this might take a while. It was a Tuesday, I think. No, wait, a Wednesday. Definitely a Wednesday. The kind of Wednesday where the sky is that washed out gray, and the air feels thick and heavy, like the world is holding its breath. I was stuck in a rut, you know? Same old routine, same old everything. And my hair? Oh, my hair was the epitome of this monotony. Long, brown, and, well, boring. I'd had it the same length and style for, like, 5 years. It was practically a member of the family, but a really dull family member who never left the house. So, there I was, scrolling through Instagram, the birthplace of all impulsive decisions, and I stumbled upon this picture. This amazing picture. It was a girl with this incredible, vibrant, fiery red pixie cut. Short, choppy, edgy, the whole shebang. And her eyes? They just popped. Suddenly, my boring brown hair felt like a heavy cloak I'd been dragging around for years. I wanted that lightness, that boldness, that fire. Right then and there, I decided. New hair, new me. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was booking a hair appointment for that very Saturday. Impulsive? Absolutely. Regrettable? Well, we'll get to that. The anticipation was almost unbearable. I spent the next 3 days in a haze of Pinterest boards, YouTube tutorials, and frantic Google searches like, how to style a pixie cut, and, will I regret cutting my hair short? The answers were mixed, to say the least. Some people swore it was the most liberating thing they'd ever done, while others shared horror stories of awkward growing out phases and constant hat wearing. I tried not to focus on the latter. Saturday finally arrived. I remember the salon smelled like that specific mix of hairspray, bleach, and something vaguely floral. It was buzzing with activity. Hairdryers whirring, snippets of conversation, the clinking of scissors. I sat in the chair, heart pounding, and showed the stylist the picture of my fiery-haired inspiration. She smiled, nodded, and then, hesitated. Are you absolutely sure about this? She asked, her eyes scanning my long, brown locks. I think she sensed my nervous energy. It's a big change. For a split second, doubt crept in. My stomach did a little flip. 5 years of hair, gone? Just like that? But then I remembered that Wednesday, that feeling of being stuck, the yearning for something different. Yes, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I'm sure. And then, snip, the first cut. It felt surreal. A lock of my hair, a piece of my history, falling to the floor. And then another snip, and another, and another. The sound of the scissors was strangely rhythmic, almost hypnotic. I watched in the mirror as my long hair gradually transformed into a pile of brown strands at my feet. It was like watching a time lapse of my life, shedding the old to make way for the new. The stylist worked her magic, chopping, layering, texturizing. Then came the color. The vibrant, fiery red dye felt cool and tingly on my scalp. I closed my eyes, imagining myself as that girl in the picture, radiating confidence and style. Hours later, it felt like hours, anyway, the stylist spun my chair around to face the mirror. And there I was, different, so different. My long brown hair was gone, replaced by this fiery red cloud around my face. It was short, choppy, and, well, it was me. But a me I hadn't met before. I can't even describe the feeling. It was a mix of exhilaration, shock, and a tiny bit of terror. It was like stepping out of a costume I'd been wearing for years and finally feeling like myself. The stylist beamed, and I couldn't help but grin back. Leaving the salon, I felt like a different person. Lighter, somehow. The heavy cloak was gone, replaced by this buzzing energy. I felt the cool air on my neck, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years. The world seemed brighter, the sounds sharper. Even the dreary Wednesday-like sky seemed a little less gray. But then, reality hit. The first hurdle? My family. Walking through the door, I braced myself for their reactions. My mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My dad just stared, speechless. My younger brother, bless his heart, burst out laughing. "You look like a carrot," he declared, between giggles. Ouch, right, kids? It took them a while to adjust. My mom kept saying things like, "It'll grow back," and, "Are you sure you like it?" My dad just kept patting my head, like he was trying to reassure himself that I was still the same person underneath the new hair. But eventually, they came around. They saw the spark in my eyes, the confidence in my stride. They saw that I liked it, that it made me happy. And you know what? It did make me happy. It wasn't just about the hair. It was about the change, the shedding of the old, the embracing of the new. It was about taking a risk, stepping outside my comfort zone, and discovering a part of myself I didn't know existed. Of course, there were downsides. Styling a pixie cut is not as easy as it looks. There were many mornings where I woke up looking like a startled rooster. And the growing out phase? Don't even get me started. There was a period where I resembled a particularly awkward mushroom. But even through the bad hair days, I never regretted it. Because that fiery red pixie cut, as short-lived as it was, reminded me that change can be good, that taking risks can be rewarding, and that sometimes, all you need is a little snip to ignite a spark within yourself. So, yeah, that's the story of my pixie cut adventure. It was bittersweet, a little chaotic, and definitely memorable. It taught me that sometimes, the smallest changes can make the biggest difference. What about you? Ever had a drastic hair transformation? Spill the tea. Okay. So, you know how sometimes you just need to do something completely different? Something totally outside your comfort zone? That's where I was a few months ago. I was stuck in a rut, scrolling endlessly through Instagram, seeing all these people doing exciting things, and feeling like a lump on the sofa. And then, I saw it, an ad for a beginner's pottery class. Pottery, me? I can barely draw a stick figure. But something about the image of hands shaping clay, the messy, earthy feel of it, just called to me. It felt like a whisper of adventure, you know? So, impulsively, I signed up. The day of the class finally arrived. I was a nervous wreck. Picture this. Me, standing outside this cute little studio tucked away on a side street. The windows were steamed up, and I could hear laughter and a low, rhythmic thumping sound coming from inside. My heart was practically doing a tap dance against my ribs. What was I even doing here? I almost turned and ran. But then the door opened, and this warm, smiling woman with clay-covered hands poked her head out. "You must be Sarah," she said, her voice all cheery and welcoming. And suddenly, some of the nervousness melted away. Inside, it was magical. The air was thick with the smell of damp clay and something faintly sweet, like wet earth after a rain. There were shelves lined with finished pieces. Mugs, bowls, vases, all these beautiful, imperfect shapes. And the people, they were all ages, all shapes and sizes, chatting and laughing as they wrestled with lumps of clay on their wheels. It felt so creative, alive. Our instructor, whose name was Fiona, gathered us around a big wooden table piled high with clay. She was this amazing, energetic woman with these strong, capable hands that just danced over the clay. She started by demonstrating the basics, wedging the clay, which, by the way, is much harder than it looks. It's like trying to tame a particularly stubborn octopus, centering it on the wheel, which I failed miserably at, like, 5 times in a row, and then, the actual shaping. Now, watching Fiona, it looked effortless. Her hands moved with this incredible grace and precision, pulling the clay upwards, shaping it, coaxing it into these elegant forms. I was mesmerized. I thought, okay, I can totally do this. Yeah, about that. My first attempt was, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly pottery. It looked more like a deflated balloon that had been attacked by a badger. It wobbled precariously on the wheel, threatening to fling itself across the room at any moment. I kept pushing too hard, pulling too gently, my hands were shaking. It was a disaster. And the sound, have you ever heard clay being tortured? It's not pretty. A sort of squelching, groaning noise that made me cringe. I looked around at everyone else. Some were struggling, some were doing surprisingly well, and some, like the woman next to me, were creating these absolutely stunning pieces that looked like they belonged in a museum. I felt a wave of discouragement wash over me. I was clearly not cut out for this. But then Fiona came over. She knelt beside me, her smile kind and encouraging. "Don't worry," she said, her voice soothing, "it takes practice. Everyone starts somewhere." She showed me again, slowly, patiently, how to position my hands, how to control the pressure, how to feel the clay responding. And you know what? She didn't just tell me, she showed me. She put her hands over mine, guiding them, helping me feel the rhythm of the wheel, the give and take of the clay. And slowly, miraculously, something started to happen. The lump of clay began to resemble something. A small, wobbly, slightly lopsided bowl, but a bowl nonetheless. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it was mine. I had made it, and I felt this ridiculous surge of pride. Like I'd just climbed Mount Everest or something. The rest of the class flew by in a blur of spinning clay, wet hands, and the satisfying squish between my fingers. I made another bowl, even more lopsided than the first. And a thing. I'm not sure what it was, but it had a hole in it, so maybe a vase. Who knows? But it was fun, messy, therapeutic. I forgot all about Instagram, all about my to-do list, all about the stresses of everyday life. I was just in the moment, creating. By the end of the class, I was covered in clay from head to toe. My hair was a mess, my clothes were splattered, and there was a distinct possibility I had clay in my eyebrows. But I was grinning like an idiot. I felt invigorated, like I'd rediscovered some part of myself I didn't even know was there. Leaving the studio, walking out into the crisp evening air, I felt lighter. Happier, like I'd shed a layer of stress and worry I hadn't even realized I was carrying. The world seemed brighter, the sounds sharper, the air sweeter. I was still a terrible potter, of course. But I didn't care. I had found something that made me feel alive, something that challenged me, something that allowed me to get my hands dirty, literally and figuratively. And you know what the best part is? Those wonky, lopsided bowls? They sit proudly on my kitchen shelf. They're a constant reminder of that day, a reminder that it's okay to step outside your comfort zone, to try new things, to embrace the messiness of life. They're a reminder that even the most imperfect creations can bring a sense of joy and accomplishment. And who knows, maybe one day, I'll actually make something that resembles a real bowl. But until then, I'll cherish my little wonky reminders of the day I discovered the magic of clay. And honestly, I can't wait for my next class. You thinking of joining me? It's seriously so much fun. Just wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. Seriously, you've been warned. Learning a new language, especially English, can feel like climbing a mountain, but trust me, the view from the top is incredible. Your confidence will grow with every sentence you speak. Think about it. Each time you form a sentence, no matter how simple, you're actively building your skills. Every conversation, every word spoken aloud, adds another brick to the foundation of your fluency. It truly is empowering, and you'll start to feel that shift in your confidence with each passing day. You got this. And you know what? There's a simple way to weave practice into your daily life. Try speaking about your day before sleeping. Just imagine, you're snuggled in bed, ready to drift off, and you recap your day aloud in English. What did you do? Who did you meet? What made you smile? It's such a low-pressure environment and a fun way to solidify what you've learned without even realizing you're practicing. You might even find yourself dreaming in English. Expressing your opinions in a discussion can sometimes feel daunting, right? I get it. You understand everything perfectly. You're following the conversation. But when it's your turn to speak, a little hesitation creeps in. That's completely normal. It's part of the process. Remember, every native speaker was once in your shoes, learning and growing. It takes courage to voice your thoughts in another language, and every time you do, you're taking a huge step forward. Now, I've been thinking a lot about consistency lately. Just the other day, I was trying to teach myself a new recipe, and it struck me how similar it is to language learning. You have to keep at it to see results. So, tell me, how do you stay consistent in practice? I'd love to hear your tips and tricks. Sharing our strategies can really help us all stay motivated and inspired on this exciting journey. So, you know how sometimes you crave something, but you don't even know what you crave? That's where I was last Sunday. Just a general, nagging sense of culinary restlessness. I opened the fridge, peered inside, the usual suspects: milk, eggs, some wilting cilantro. Nothing sparked joy, you know? Then, my eyes landed on it. A pale green, almost ghostly, lauki. Bottle gourd. Now, lauki doesn't exactly scream culinary adventure, does it? It's kind of the wallflower of vegetables. But something about its unassuming presence called to me. I thought, okay, lauki, let's do this. Let's make koftas. Now, I've never made lauki koftas before. My mom used to make them, and they were, well, let's just say her version was a little on the bland side. Bless her heart, she tried. But those koftas? They were like fluffy, flavorless clouds. So, this wasn't just about making koftas. This was about redemption. Lauki redemption. My mom's recipe redemption. My potential kitchen disaster redemption. It was a lot of pressure for a Sunday afternoon. First things first, I had to grate this massive lauki. Have you ever grated a lauki? It's an experience. It's surprisingly watery. I mean, Niagara Falls watery. My kitchen counter looked like a swamp by the time I was done. And my hands? They smelled, well, they smelled like lauki. Not unpleasant, just earthy. Very earthy. Then came the squeezing. Oh, the squeezing. You have to squeeze out all that excess water, or your koftas will be soggy, sad little things. I grabbed handfuls of grated lauki and squeezed until my knuckles were white. I imagined I was wrestling a particularly stubborn, watery alien. It was oddly satisfying. Into the bowl went the squeezed lauki, along with a mountain of finely chopped onions, which, by the way, made me cry. I always cry when I chop onions. It's like a culinary rite of passage. Some people meditate. I chop onions and weep. Then came the spices. This is where my inner artist emerged. A sprinkle of turmeric, a dash of red chili powder, a generous pinch of garam masala, a fragrant cloud of coriander and cumin powder. The air in my kitchen started to smell alive. Warm, earthy, promising. And then, the secret ingredient, besan. Gram flour. The binder, the magic maker, the kofta whisperer. I added it slowly, mixing everything together until the mixture felt just right. Not too wet, not too dry. It's a delicate balance, you see. Like life. Now came the tricky part. Frying the koftas. I heated the oil in my trusty kadai, the one I inherited from my grandmother. It's blackened with age and seasoned with 1,000 stories. I gently dropped spoonfuls of the lauki mixture into the hot oil. They sizzled and popped, transforming from pale green blobs into golden brown spheres of deliciousness. The smell? Oh, the smell. It was intoxicating. My stomach rumbled in anticipation. But here's where things got interesting. Remember how I said I was a kofta novice? Well, my first few koftas, they weren't exactly spherical. More like, amorphous, lumpy, kind of sad. I fished them out with a slotted spoon, feeling a little defeated. What am I doing wrong? I muttered to myself. Then, my inner kitchen warrior kicked in. Don't give up, she yelled, metaphorically, of course. Adjust, adapt, overcome. So, I adjusted the heat. I made the koftas smaller. I prayed to the kitchen gods. And guess what? It worked. The next batch came out perfectly round, golden brown, and crispy. I felt a surge of triumph. Take that, lumpy koftas. While the koftas cooled, I started on the gravy. More onions, more spices, a swirl of creamy yogurt, a touch of sweetness from a pinch of sugar. The gravy simmered on the stove, filling the kitchen with its rich, aromatic fragrance. It was a symphony of flavors. And then, the grand finale. Gently, I lowered the golden koftas into the simmering gravy. They bobbed and floated like tiny, delicious life rafts. I covered the pot and let everything simmer for a few minutes, allowing the flavors to meld and mingle, to become one. Finally, it was ready. I scooped a generous serving onto a plate, garnished it with fresh cilantro, and took a deep breath. The moment of truth. I closed my eyes, took a bite, and it was heavenly. The koftas were crispy on the outside, soft and fluffy on the inside, bursting with flavor. The gravy was rich and creamy, the perfect complement to the delicate koftas. It was everything I had hoped for and more. It wasn't just lauki kofta. It was a culinary victory. A testament to perseverance. A tribute to my mom, whose bland koftas had inadvertently inspired me to create something truly special. And you know what the best part was? Sharing it. I called my friends, my neighbors, anyone who would appreciate a plate of warm, delicious lauki koftas. Because food, you see, isn't just about sustenance. It's about connection. It's about sharing a piece of yourself with the people you love. And that Sunday afternoon, surrounded by friends and the aroma of perfectly cooked lauki koftas, I felt truly content. So, yeah, that's the story of how I conquered the lauki and redeemed the kofta. It was a journey, a delicious, messy, emotional journey. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now, tell me, what culinary adventures have you been up to? Okay, so, you won't believe what happened to me the other day. It all started with toothpaste. Toothpaste, of all things, right? You know how it is, you get into a routine. Same breakfast, same commute, same minty fresh toothpaste. Well, I decided I was in a rut. A minty rut. My life needed a little zing. And where better to start than with the very first thing I put in my mouth in the morning? So, I'm at the drugstore, staring at this wall of toothpaste. It's overwhelming, you know? Like, who knew there were so many variations on cleaning your teeth? Whitening, tartar control, sensitive gums, extra fluoride. It's a whole universe of dental hygiene. My usual minty friend was there, blinking at me from the shelf, all dependable and familiar. But I was on a mission. I started exploring. There were these fancy gel ones, striped blue and white, promising an icy blast of freshness. Honestly, they sounded a bit aggressive, first thing in the morning. I'm more of a gentle sunrise kind of person. Then there were the all-natural ones, with pictures of herbs and promises of earthly harmony. I sniffed one. It smelled faintly of dirt. Not exactly the invigorating wake-up call I was after. Then, tucked away on a lower shelf, almost hidden, I saw it. The tube was a vibrant, almost shocking, shade of coral pink. Watermelon burst, the label proclaimed, with a picture of a juicy watermelon slice. Watermelon? Toothpaste? My curiosity was piqued, to say the least. I mean, had anyone ever actually tried watermelon toothpaste? I had to know. I picked it up, the tube surprisingly smooth and cool to the touch. I flipped it over and read the ingredients, squinting at the tiny print. No artificial sweeteners, which was a plus. But there was something called natural watermelon flavor, which, I don't know, sounded a little mysterious. Like, what is natural watermelon flavor? Is it actual watermelon, or some kind of watermelon essence, captured by tiny woodland nymphs and bottled for our brushing pleasure? Who knows? Anyway, the adventurous side of me won. I tossed the watermelon burst into my basket, along with some mundane necessities like shampoo and granola bars, feeling a little thrill of rebellion. It was like a secret I was carrying, a tiny pink tube of potential chaos in my otherwise orderly life. That evening, I couldn't wait to try it. I finished dinner, brushed my hair, and then, with a sense of anticipation usually reserved for opening birthday presents, I reached for the pink tube. I unscrewed the cap, and sniffed. Oh, my goodness, it smelled exactly like watermelon bubblegum. Like the super sweet, artificial kind I used to chew as a kid. It was a powerful, almost overwhelming scent. I paused, momentarily thrown. This was unexpected. Was I about to brush my teeth with bubblegum? Was this a good idea? A wave of slight panic washed over me. What if my teeth turned pink? Or started tasting like bubblegum all day? What if I accidentally blew a bubble while talking to my boss? But, no. I had come this far. I couldn't back down now. I squeezed a generous dollop onto my toothbrush. The paste was a shockingly bright, almost neon pink. It looked alarmingly edible. Like I could spread it on toast. Which, obviously, I wasn't going to do. But the thought crossed my mind. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and put the toothbrush in my mouth. And, whoa, it was an explosion of sweetness. Like a watermelon Jolly Rancher had detonated in my mouth. It was intensely, overwhelmingly sweet. Not minty fresh, not clean and crisp, but sugary sweet. And the bubblegum scent? It was amplified tenfold. My whole bathroom smelled like a candy store. I brushed, a little bewildered. My teeth felt slippery, like they were coated in sugar. Which, I suppose, they kind of were. The foam that formed was also pink. Pink foam. It was like brushing my teeth with cotton candy. The whole experience was so surreal, I started giggling. I mean, who brushes their teeth with watermelon? It was ridiculous, and yet, kind of amazing. After a couple of minutes, I rinsed my mouth. The sweetness lingered, a faint but persistent reminder of the watermelon explosion that had just occurred. My teeth felt clean, I guess, but mostly, they felt weird. Like they were wearing tiny, invisible watermelon costumes. I looked in the mirror. My teeth weren't pink, thank goodness. But my tongue was a slightly unsettling shade of pale pink. It looked like I'd been eating popsicles. I stuck my tongue out, examining it in the light. Well, that's new, I muttered to myself. I went to bed that night with a slightly sticky, vaguely watermelon-flavored mouth. It was different, not bad, necessarily, just different. And honestly, kind of fun. It was like a little secret adventure, tucked away in my nightly routine. The next morning, the watermelon flavor was gone, replaced by the usual morning breath. I reached for the pink tube again, a little hesitant this time. The initial shock had worn off, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for another round of watermelon madness. But then, I smelled it again. That sweet, bubblegum scent. And I couldn't help but smile. It was ridiculous, yes. But it was also kind of delightful. A little bit of silly, unexpected joy in the midst of the mundane. So, I brushed my teeth with watermelon toothpaste again. And again. And again. It didn't become my everyday toothpaste, you know? The sweetness was a bit much for daily use, but it became my special occasion toothpaste. The toothpaste I used when I needed a little boost, a little reminder that life doesn't always have to be minty fresh and predictable. Sometimes, it can be a burst of watermelon, a pink foam party in your mouth, a little bit of silly, unexpected fun. And you know what? Sometimes, that's exactly what you need. It's the little things, right? The unexpected flavors, the tiny adventures, the moments that make you giggle while you're brushing your teeth. Those are the things that make life interesting. So, next time you're at the drugstore, staring at that wall of toothpaste, take a chance. Try something new. You might be surprised at what you discover. Who knows, you might even find your own little watermelon burst of joy. Just be prepared for a pink tongue. You've been warned. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me. It really means a lot to have you here. I hope you found something useful or enjoyable in today's video. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and share so you can stay up to date with new daily content focused on English speaking and listening. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, do you have a trip or outing planned for the coming days? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans is a fantastic way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with others in the comments. I find it so inspiring to hear about your adventures. See you tomorrow, and in the meantime, take good care of yourselves and keep practicing.